What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Investing Bros live show. It is Tuesday afternoon, October 1st, and we have got a big show lined up for you guys tonight. The world just continues to get hit with blow after blow after blow. Here in the United States, we're dealing with a massive storm over the weekend, and now it does look like there is attacks happening from Iran going into Israel confirmed. You're going to see a lot of stuff out on the internet today. Of course, the World War III conversation is coming back to the equation. We're going to discuss that and a whole lot more in this episode and what it means for your crypto prices. I know it sounds trivial amongst all of the chaos and the hurt happening in the world right now to talk crypto prices. Unfortunately, though, that is our job here at the Investing Bros channel. So we're going to try to deal with this as seriously as we should, but also make sure that we're balancing that with helping you guys still navigate the markets to invest and make the wisest decisions possible with your money. Do not go anywhere. Make sure to smash the like and hit subscribe if you do enjoy the Bros channel and you enjoy this episode. But with that said, first, we got to roll the intro. T-Shroom, how you doing today, my friend?
Well, Tim, I'm doing better than I deserve. Unfortunately, there's people around the world who are not in the same situation. But how are you doing, Tim?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Again, I can not be anything but grateful for where I am. I'll tell you this, like I said, we're going to talk a lot about Israel today, Iran, what that means for oil prices, how oil prices will affect the economy, how the economy will affect crypto. But of course, we're not going to forget the continual suffering happening even here in the United States, not that far away from where I am. In fact, T-Shroom, if you look at like where I am in northwest Atlanta, literally you drive 100 and some odd miles to the north of me, and there are whole cities and towns shut down because of the storm where water and mudslides just destroyed everything. If you go about 80 miles east of me, there was an explosion on the east side of Atlanta where they literally have quarantined people and telling them to house inside because the air is not safe to breathe. And then we just got news. We have some friends, T-Shroom and I have a friend down in Florida. I didn't even know till today. I thought, everyone had been okay, but I found out a good friend of ours literally lost everything in the storm. House, cars. Luckily, him, his wife, and his child got out. They're safe, which is the number one thing I'm worried about. But still even hearing people's entire livelihoods are being turned upside down at the moment. It's very heartbreaking, but it also, I'm very grateful for my wife, my family, my house, my assets. Nothing got hurt whatsoever, but that doesn't mean that I'm not brokenhearted for you guys. I'm sure there's even people listening in the Carolinas, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida areas that maybe you guys were hit by that storm pretty hard. And I just want you to know we're thinking about you. We're praying for you. And let us know if there's anything we can do. We don't necessarily have a whole lot, but the little we have, we'd love to be able to help if we can. And then T-Shroom, again, adding this till today, it's not just that an attack happened in Israel. We know from yesterday Americans were sent over to the Middle East. And I'm not going to try to get too crazy here. I don't want to do fear mongering. And, we're going to address the rumblings and the chaos and the claims that this could be the beginning of World War III. And I don't want to overstate that and make a fear monger, but it's something we need to address. It's something we need to talk about. I don't think it's something to ignore. I see someone in the chat say, oh, it's just manipulation. It's not simply manipulation. There's already been at least one life lost. There's probably going to be hundreds, if not thousands more lost because of this conflict. Does it become World War III? Does it destroy the markets? We'll discuss that. But no matter what, thoughts and prayers with everyone worldwide who's going through hardships that we're not going through right now, T-Shroom.
Yep, absolutely. So I think it may make more sense to go ahead and front load the news rather than get into the charts first, but I'll leave it up to you, Tim. You want to go check out how prices are reacting, or do we want to see kind of what's coming across the headlines?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's check in on the markets, and then we'll jump into the headlines. We'll have lots of time today to dissect, get into the details of the stories. Also, we'll do lots of Q&A. We'll take a look at lots of different charts here. But let's go to my screen here. Bubbles, this is exactly what I expected to see after last weekend's big pump. Big sea of red. In fact, it's not just little. Even though the bubbles, no singular bubble in the top 100 is standing out amongst the pack. you're seeing some of these ones with the higher levels, 15% for Arweave, 10% for Near, 11% for CFX and WorldCoin, 13% for Not, 13% for Gala. Just a whole lot of pain in the top 100. A correction that we had been calling for here on the channel. And before we kind of get into the stories and potentially what could be bad, I want to make sure people are aware of some calls that we've made here on the channel. We've seen some confirmation, even though it's been confusing back and forth right now. Go to my screen here, T-Shroom. Even though I was bearish back here during early, the mid-September period, I thought we were going to go much lower. I flipped to being more bullish after setting a higher high for the first time in months here on the Bitcoin chart. We still here on the Investing Bros channel said, look out for the liquidity up around 66,000 to force a correction and a higher low. The target we have placed that we're still watching is $60,000. That is still something on the table. We have not dropped that low. We have wicked down here towards $61,000. But is this news that we have coming out over the weekend and today, is this simply just going to work as the trigger to make sure that we end up getting down to a level that it really was to be expected? We have some heavy liquidations at these levels. The technicals, as far as ascending channel formations, are calling for these levels. The daily charts, the daily charts smart trail is coming in right at that level as well. This was something that we were expecting even before all of the bad news. So I would not be surprised still if this is where we find some sort of bottom position. But it is something to start to monitor, T-Shroom. Does this $60,000 get lost? Do we start to look towards the next level of significance towards 57? If 57 is lost, we're looking back down here at 51,000. For now, that's as low as I'm going to go. But I still feel pretty confident about the $60,000 mark. Let's watch to see what happens when we get to it. But I would not be surprised to see a nice little bounce at that area. And we'll talk more about why that is. It's time to go ahead and transition into the news. We're going to come back into the charts. We're going to talk about times more recently and historically where we've seen conflict, we've seen threats and thoughts of war. How do markets respond? What will Bitcoin, what will crypto do? Let's get into all of that by starting off, T-Shroom. What is happening right now for anyone who maybe is working or they've just been busy today doing who knows what? They're not really up to date with breaking news. What's happening right now over in the Middle East?
Yeah, we're going to jump into it. The worst has happened. There's been escalation. Iran launches missile attack on Israel for killing of Hezbollah leader, the general of Hezbollah. Iran launched a ballistic missile attack on Israel, the Israeli military said. The Dow Jones Industrial, as a result, fell more than 250 points, spurred by a surge in the cost of WTI crude oil on fears of heightening tensions in the petroleum-rich Middle East. Tim, stopping right there, that is essentially the summary of where we are in the market. The market is trying to figure out how much risk is appropriate under these new conditions, under this new event that has happened. Wouldn't even really come close to calling it a black swan, right? Because these events, these escalations have been anticipated, and they have been something that folks have been predicting. However, this is a negative effect, and historically, it has not been good when petroleum-rich Middle East experiences tensions and escalations in conflicts. We're going to look now to Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham's Twitter feed. He's a senator. Take a look here at the rhetoric coming out of Washington right now. The missile attack against Israel should be the breaking point, and I would urge the Biden admin to coordinate an overwhelming response with Israel, starting with Iran's ability to refine oil. These oil refineries need to be hit, and hit hard, because that is the source of cash for the regime to perpetrate terror. This is the views and opinions of Senator Lindsey Graham. So we're not saying that we agree with those statements, but those are some of the statements coming out of one of Israel's closest allies, the United States of America. So this does not bode well, right? The market right now is trying to figure out do these threats that are coming out of Washington, are these going to materialize? Are they actually going to be realized? Well, in the last 24 hours, we've seen U.S. troops sent to Israel. Right? So that, in some sense, has already happened. There's already been a response. Has it been overwhelming in the way that Lindsey Graham is envisioning? Perhaps not. Another thing to note is that Lindsey Graham does come in on the pretty extreme side of reaction to this event. This is not reflective of all U.S. senators in terms of how to react to this. So, Tim, those are the facts on the ground. We're going to take a look at some similar events that happened back in April and how that affected the markets. And then we're going to look at a little further back in history how these types of events went very wrong and what would have been the appropriate way to de-risk in those times. So what are your reactions at this point, just based on the facts?
Yeah, I mean, so again, all of this is factual at this point. I don't think any of these details are being fabricated whatsoever to mislead anyone individually. I think it is too soon. Let's just be very real and cut to the point. It's too soon to start calling this World War III. If we're being honest, I mean, I'm only 30 years old, right? There's a lot of people in here that are my age. Some of you guys are a little bit older than me. Some of you a little younger than me. You'll remember, I vividly remember back in 2002 when we invaded, I guess it would be Afghanistan. There was talk then that would be World War III. And then again, you fast forward into a couple of years ago, back into 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. Once again, we got this large amount of chiming in that this was the beginning of World War III. And if you go back before that, I'm not old enough to remember this, but anyone who maybe is in their 50s, 60s, you guys remember in the 80s and 90s, throughout the Cold War period, there was lots of conversation that World War III could start at any minute. It doesn't necessarily go that way. I think it is a little soon to say World War III. America sending troops to Israel. Obviously, Israel is an ally of the United States. They're doing that. What would be worrying, obviously, is Russia and China have more of an alliance with Iran. I am not aware, T-Shroom, I could be wrong about this. Someone could fact check me, but I'm not aware of hearing that Russia and China are sending troops to Iran. Obviously, Russia is still dealing with their own conflict on the Ukraine border, but I have not heard any news there. If that were to happen, now all of a sudden we do have a situation that's getting a lot more serious about a potential World War III. I don't think we're going to get there, though. I think even though there's clearly some butting of heads, there's clearly some disagreements, there's clearly pented up frustration between the United States, China, Russia. No, not a single one of those three countries wants to have a reason to be in conflict with each other. Not a single one of them would make it out of that conflict very, very highly. So you still have to remember the biggest factors right now that would contribute to World War III would be not just the United States being involved in tensions in the Middle East. It would also need to see either Russia or China or both get involved as well. And at the moment, I don't think that is what we are seeing. And I would be very surprised if it did happen. But I want to make sure people understand this is not necessarily World War III. This is a little early to be kind of going that far. That's what the newspaper is going to want to say. That's what headlines of articles are going to want to say because it sells clicks, it sells views, it sells subscriptions. But that's all it is at this point. And to try to claim that and to fearmonger that is just misleading the everyday person who that's really not what's happening here. As T-Shroom said, this is not like this just came out of nowhere. This conflict has been around for a long time. It has escalated in the last couple of months, but it is not necessarily just coming out of thin air. It's not something that's just going to take the world by storm with World War III starting. That being said, if we start to see movement from China, Russia, we'll have a different conversation.
That's right. So there's a lot here. There's a lot of different angles we could take this. We're not going to get into the history of these tensions. We're not going to get into, the he said, she said of who's on the right side of all that. We're purely interested in the markets, right? Obviously, we're interested in least amount of deaths as possible, but we don't have any control over that, right? What we do have control over is our own portfolios and how we might enlighten ourselves, educate ourselves on history as the guide to what to do next, if anything. Maybe the right thing to do is nothing. So the first thing that I want to show is actually something that a bro has already called out. We have a very smart group of folks here. This is Dips for Buying said this is a very similar reaction to the drone strike a few months ago. All comes down to the escalation. That is absolutely correct. So the bros, we've been hard at work digging up exactly that. So back here, this is from Al Jazeera. Iran attacks Israel with over 300 drone missiles. If you remember that headline, this is from April of this year, April 14th. So we're going to go look at the charts. We're going to look at Bitcoin price, oil price, and more than likely the NASDAQ and S&P. And then we can cross referenced this with the Associated Press with the same headline, Israel 300 drones. And then that was April 14th, 2024. Okay, so one thing to note, this was a single point in time. This was, the media covering this story. But there had been a lot of fear growing up into this point. If you'll remember, there was a lot of speculation. Several state departments had come out and issued warnings that this was going to happen, including the U.S. State Department. In this case, today, this attack, I would say that the media and especially a lot of traders, the market has kind of grown numb to the conflict continuing, dragging on in the Middle East. Again, not saying anything about the actual tension itself as much as the way that markets are interpreting it. So I feel that was important to kind of give the backdrop historically of what was going on then versus now, kind of the mood and the tenor that the market had in relation to these tensions escalating in the petroleum-rich Middle East. So, Tim, let's take a look at the charts and when those times correlated.
Yeah, so what were the dates we're looking at here? And we're going to take a look at both the Bitcoin chart and the oil chart as well. I believe you said that April 14th is the date we're kind of looking at here, right? You're muted, so if you're saying something, we cannot hear you.
Good call. April 14th was the time when the headlines rang. Israel says Iran launched more than 300 drones and missiles. So this was the last time that an assault of this attack. Of course, weapons experts are going to have a huge problem with comparing 300 drones with the missiles that were launched today. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about similar events and how those headlines are interpreted by the market.
So if you go back to Bitcoin's chart here, April 14th, we'd actually started a little bit of a slump from not the highest high, but the second high here on April 8th when we reached back up here towards $72,700. We began a slump. The day of the 14th, we actually saw Bitcoin have a nice little rally of about almost 3%. And then we would continue for the next couple of days, bottom out, have a nice rally, bottom out. But if you really look at it, we kind of saw it happen in the middle of a pullback that had started earlier before this strike. I don't remember every detail, T-shirt, about what went into this. There was other reasons as to why Bitcoin price started slipping. But I'm going to chalk this up when I'm be very honest with you. I would say this situation was a nothing burger with price action. The price had already started correcting. It had not quite gone as low as it ended up wanting to go, back down below $60,000. A good, healthy correction. At the time, we actually called a correction of this magnitude back around 20%. This was something, once again, if you were just charting how Bitcoin was moving at the time, this was a very, very normal pullback that was expected. Was it helped and aided by potentially this news? Absolutely. But it being in the middle and actually having some volatility coming after it kind of to me says if anyone's thinking this news is going to cause Bitcoin's price to dump, this isn't really what I would call a dump. Did we continue a correction that was already kind of expected? Yes, but we didn't see any major crash. In fact, the day of, we actually even saw a bullish candle. So that's my first thing. We'll just compare that history. Was this a serious time back on April 14th? Yes, it was. But did it have overwhelmingly negative implications for Bitcoin? Short answer, no.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Actually, I was going to say, I guess the other one we wanted to look at was oil, didn't we,
That's
as
right.
well?
Yep.
Yeah. So in fact, with oil right now, okay, let's talk about this for a second. One of the reasons why people are freaking out is today with the escalation. We saw earlier today an American report said that within 12 hours, Iran was going to strike. Of course, now they have. But what everyone's talking about, how today we actually saw the price of oil go up at one point almost 7% just on the day, right? It's corrected here a little bit. It's now up roughly 4.6% on the day. But that still is why people are freaking out. When you zoom out, though, oil has been pretty far down from recent highs. Let's go to the daily chart, actually. It's pretty far down from even highs we've had in the last couple of months. But let's go back and look at what did oil do the last time something like this happened back on April 14th. You're going to see right in here, April 14th, we just peaked a couple of days before that. But there you would see a pretty staunch correction. The 14th to be right in this category. Let's grab the percentage here. We would see over the next couple of weeks, oil would fall 15% Starting up here when it happened on $85 per barrel. Now it would be after that in a couple of weeks down to 72 after a small bounce with a lower high. Now oil has reached the lowest price we had seen here more recently since all the way back here in earlier 2023. So well over a year of price action. This 5%, 7% pump we're seeing, it's not something to freak out about. Does it sell a headline, T-Shroom? Absolutely. It's a really cool tweet that's going to get a lot of engagement over on Twitter to say oil up 5% after Iran attacks, right? Great headline. But when you actually look at the data points, when you look at what oil has done recently, have we broken any major trend? If you go back to my screen, sorry, I know you just went away from it. Have we broken a trend? No, we haven't broken a trend line. In fact, we could have made it all the way back up to 73 and still just been setting our consistent lower highs and lower lows. We are in a falling wedge pattern, if I can grab these lines correctly. We're in a falling wedge pattern here with the oil prices. This is something that eventually we probably will see oil prices move to the upside if this chart moves the way it traditionally does with these falling, broadening wedges that normally break to the upside. But for now, what we're watching here, T-Shroom, historically, the last time this happened, oil prices actually dropped, yet people are spreading fear that they should really rally. People are talking about a crash in the crypto markets, even though the last time this happened, it really had limited to no effect on crypto whatsoever. At this point, I'm just saying in the short history of things, and we might look deeper into more historical details here, but in the short history we have looking at the year 2024, this is not a reason to actually be bearish on cryptocurrency, on the stock market, and it's not a reason to suspect that oil is going to skyrocket. If oil goes up, I don't think it's necessarily going to be from this specific reason. It would be more of a coincidence of saying, hey, we're in a bullish formation right now that's ready to break to the upside at any given moment. That would be the catalyst for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the summary here so far, bros, just kind of, look, we're all taking all this in at the same time, essentially. You know, you flip around to CNBC, you flip around to Bloomberg. They're going to be talking about a similar type of thought process here. How bad is this, right? What's coming next? And ultimately, you know, things right now are unstable, right? But as soon as there's a peak in pain, things immediately start to stabilize. And until there's a retaliation or a threat of a retaliation, we're in stability mode. Now, does that mean that prices are going to skyrocket from here? No, right? But the worst thing you can do, and the most value I think you can pull out of this episode, is to not sell preemptively. And we've seen a couple of folks here in the chat saying that they've sold, right? Let's see. Kaya React said, to be honest, I sold some of my Bitcoin to buy gold. Keyword there, some, right? We're not passing judgment. We're just showing, hey, some people are making moves here based on this news. Let's see. Yeah, so that's an example. There was more. But Fiat Max said, I'm in my 40s, seen this happen like half a dozen times. Yeah, so I think the biggest mistake, let me just talk about myself and my investments, right? I think the biggest mistake that I could make right here is to de-risk prematurely, right? I'm about to show you examples of times where you should have de-risked, right? Just so that you get a 360 understanding of what's going on here, right? But the best success that I've had in my investing career is by waiting, having time on my side. We were literally talking about time this morning in the Discord. Having time on your side, waiting, just being patient, see how things stabilize, getting caught up in the frenzy, watching a bunch of TikToks of rocket explosions. You know, that's how you make an emotional decision. With that said, let's jump into the recessions page of Wikipedia here. We're going to take a look. The 1973 to 1975 recession was characterized by the 1973 oil crisis, a quadrupling of oil prices by OPEC, coupled with a stock market crash led by stagflation, recession in the United States. This was a really bad one, right? Unemployment got up to 9%, and that was generally really, really bad. But oil was a big part of that theme. Okay, the Iranian Revolution from 1991 to 1992, that was the recession. The Iranian Revolution sharply increased the price of oil around the world in 1979, causing the 1979 energy crisis. The changes were made largely because of inflation carrying over from the previous decade because of the 1973 oil crisis and the 1979 oil crisis, right? So now we actually have the name of the country that is being discussed today. So this is just information, right? Does this mean you should buy or sell? No. If you're taking a buy or sell signal from this, you're doing it wrong. T-Shroom is presenting this to you all because these things, if not taken seriously, can go wrong, right? Assets can be devalued over an extended period of time if you are inattentive, right? But if you're listening to the sound of my voice and you've been watching this full episode, I would make the argument that you're thoroughly educated at this point to make the decision of whether to buy or sell today. Now, Tim, what are your reactions here? Essentially, the main takeaway, I think, from this information is that recessions have been brought on by big movements in the oil markets, right? But in the case of 1982, it was a quadrupling of oil prices. Bros, we've barely seen, we haven't even seen oil get out of the single digits of percentage increase, and then there was an immediate retracement. So we're not at a point where oil is getting out of hand and running away in price action. But Tim, what is there any kind of information here that you're pulling out from these kind of trip down memory lane?
Yeah, no, I mean, if we start to see oil prices just skyrocket, then I think there's real concern to have. Unfortunately, though, where we currently are, having reached recent bottoms we hadn't seen in over a year, a 5% increase, is it bigger than we've seen more recently? Yeah, it's one of the bigger daily candles we've seen. That doesn't mean, though, it's all doom and gloom. And so I want to make sure we kind of, with everyone in here now, we have over 700, almost 800 people watching total across both platforms, right? You guys are going to be watching this episode, whether you watch from the beginning or you're just joining us. Obviously, T-Stream and I are going to have more somber sounding voices today. It's not really joke around, lighthearted, kicks and giggles. And the reason for that is not because we believe that the markets are about to crash to historical lows. We're not telling you guys to take all your money out of your stock investments, out of your crypto investments. In fact, we're kind of sitting here saying is, guys, this is actually, it's not necessarily as big of a deal when it comes to the markets as the articles and the newspapers and the websites are trying to make it seem right now. The reason we're somber, though, is because we live in a real world where people have real problems. Right now, here in the United States and over in the Middle East, there are real people who did nothing wrong, they didn't bring this upon themselves, they didn't ask for this, and yet their whole worlds are being turned upside down. As much as we're here to talk about markets and helping you guys make money, I'm not going to belittle or ignore the livelihoods of thousands and millions of people who are not having prosperity right now, who could care less about what Bitcoin's price is about to do, who could care less about the price of oil. They care more about, will I still be alive tomorrow morning? That's why we're not going to be so lighthearted and jokey. But we want to make sure you understand, while we hope that you guys are the type of people who empathize and who understand this is a serious situation and are, you know, I'm not saying everyone sign up and go to war and help protect. I'm saying, are you doing something to make sure that you are prioritizing people over money? I urge all of you to be that way. That being said, when we are talking about money, what T-Stream and I are getting at here, we're really trying to dispel some FUD being posted all over the internet right now, because I don't want you to be hurt not only by the situation happening in the U.S., hurt by what's happening in the Middle East, but also hurt because your portfolio got slashed because you bought a lie. You sold on a rumor of something that never actually came to fruition. And historically, these things happening, I'm not going to say they're good things, but they're not negative for the markets, especially the crypto markets. That's the information you guys need to make sure you walk away from this show with today. Be praying and doing the most you can do to help people around you, but also stay invested in the markets. Do not sell out right now because of FUD in the space. That would be a major mistake.
Yeah. I would agree that is the main takeaway. We're going to be getting into other news here. There are other things going on. We heard from Powell yesterday. Some of those remarks are summarized for you all. But obviously, you know, this latest event in the Middle East was very important to bring to y'all's attention because its potential impact on the price of oil. So we're ready to move on. So let's do it. The next story here is actually the jobs reports from the JOLTS job reports that were printed this morning. The actual print was 8.04 million. The previous was 7.71 million. The consensus, meaning the prediction of what the actual was going to be, was 7.6. And the forecast was 7.6 as well. That means that it's a beat. You want this number to be high if you're bullish, if you're long the market, and it was. So Tim, let's break this one down really quickly here. What does this mean for the market? Is this something that is going to be a huge factor in the next rate decision? What are your thoughts here on this?
Well, the JOLTS job openings are being up higher than expected. It's actually a positive thing. It means that there are more jobs being created, and they're needing to fill those positions. Now, again, I don't want to always keep bringing it back to this. I don't know how much of them were in the Appalachian area as well. That's going to be something major down in Florida, in the Appalachians, here in Georgia, different places. Obviously, there are companies destroyed. There were farmlands destroyed. That's going to affect the job market. It's not going to necessarily be the fault of the government. It's going to be the fault of the weather. But this data is simply saying, despite the fact that we just cut rates for the first time in multiple years, despite the fact that some unemployment numbers have been growing, something has happened over the last months to allow more jobs to be created. You guys can say it's fake news. You can belittle it. You do whatever you want, and that's completely up to you. Markets do not necessarily respond based off of to reality. They respond to data, and the data is saying, hey, there are more job opens this month, way more than expected. This, in theory, paired with rate cuts coming in, should be a bullish market. If more people can get jobs and it becomes easier to borrow money, bringing the liquidity up, guess where all that money can flow? Back into the stock market, back into the crypto markets. Prices should elevate from these levels.
Yeah. Yep. No, I tend to agree with that. So a good all clear there from the jobs market. And then I believe Friday we actually get an unemployment print. Let me just go ahead over here and just check unemployment rate. The consensus is 4.2, forecast 4.3. That's an interesting discontinuity there. But the previous was 4.2. So we just need to come in below 4.2 or potentially at it, and that should be interpreted as bullish for the market. Continuing on here in the news, and look, by Friday, this is going to be the biggest news unless the Middle Eastern escalation continues. But make no mistake, unemployment, we're still a few days away, but the unemployment rate here is going to be a big one because all eyes are off inflation and on the job market, right? The job market needs to play along in order for bulls to succeed. We'll get to this one here in just a second.
A little spoiler right there.
But there's been a little teaser. Stay tuned. It's pretty fun and pretty exciting. A little bit cool. Yeah. So Fed Chair Jerome Powell spotted outside the Bitcoin Magazine HQ in Nashville. This is, you have to trust your own eyes to believe this here, but this is coming from Bitcoin Magazine themselves. So of course, if anybody knew who it was, it would be Bitcoin Magazine. And there's a chance that there's some sarcasm here.
Real quick question. If Bitcoin Magazine is posting this, right? So scroll out for a second. It's clearly it's a picture taken by someone in a building looking at Jerome. That does look like Jerome Powell across the street. What if this is just a funny coincidence? Jerome Powell seen in the building across the street. That also could just be someone else other than Jerome Powell. I guess he's a white man with gray hair. I'm gonna venture to say there's a couple million of those here in the United States, at least a couple 100,000. There's a chance that's not Jerome Powell, but it looked. I mean, from a distance, you would fool me with that. Yeah. But I'm just even playing this. They're posting it. Someone took the picture from an opposite building. Is it more of a joke? Just again, as I said earlier, to sell headlines, to get a click, to get a like. Either way, it's kind of humorous and funny, but I wouldn't expect it to have any effect on the markets whatsoever.
Right, as would I. And I also wouldn't put it past Bitcoin Magazine to later come out and say that they were joking. Let's continue here because there's a very serious side of Jerome Powell, right? And that's the fact that he's the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Maybe you've heard of it before. We do have the latest here on this. Jerome Powell spoke Monday, and the markets have kind of summarized it. So and have identified what is important, and we're bringing it to you all's attention. It's the latest with the FOMC. At their last meeting, September 18th, Fed officials reduced their rate to 4.8% from a two-decade high of 5.3%. That was that 50 basis point cut, and penciled in two more quarter-point rate cuts in November and December. On Monday, yesterday, Powell said that remains the most likely outcome. If the economy performs as expected, that would mean two more rate cuts this year, both a quarter point, Powell said. So that is currently what is on the table, quarter point. If we get something crazy coming in on Friday with that unemployment rate, right? That's what's going to determine, in my opinion, if it's a quarter or if it's a double quarter. In prepared remarks, Powell said the U.S. economy and hiring are largely healthy and emphasized that the Fed is recalibrating. There's that word. Its key interest rate as opposed to cutting rapidly as it would in an emergency. He also stated the rate is headed to a more neutral stance, a level that doesn't stimulate or hold back the economy. Fed officials have pegged the so-called neutral rate at 3%, significantly below its current rate. From a reliable source. So, Tim, unpacking this, we're going to get more rate cuts. They're probably not going to pause, right? Unless we have some kind of crazy outcome in between now and and November 7th, I believe it is the next decision. So what do you think happens? Do you think we get 25? Do you think we get 50? I'm going to pull up Polymarket to see what the Vegas is saying.
Yeah, I would say 25 is going to be my prediction. I know we just heard from one member of the Fed who said they were still open to another 50 basis point cut in Nashville, November. I saw it in the chat. They're talking about Nashville because he's in Nashville at the Bitcoin Magazine building. My expectation would be 25. And this is the news I think that has a bigger implication on markets today. I think the more certain we are, we talked about this earlier, T-shirt. We talked about this, I think, on yesterday's show. Certainty is a very important thing. A lot of people are concerned that the presidency is going to have a major impact on Bitcoin's price, either positive or negative. The truth is it's going to have a positive impact. Whether we have either a Donald Trump presidency or a Kamala Harris presidency, the surety of who the next president is allows the markets to start making their moves. When it's unclear, when it's up in the air, the markets don't want to make any definite moves because they're just not sure what the future looks like. Once we have a clear picture of the future, now the markets can make their move. This would be a very bullish thing. Same thing here with interest rates. Now, Jerome Powell isn't saying this for certain. He obviously could change his mind. But with him saying, the plan at this point, as long as everything stays neutral, is to go 25-25, the more certainty the markets have, the easier it is to go ahead and start reacting the way they need to. In this case, with rate cuts coming, with more liquidity being pumped into space, with the presumption that the economy and the economic numbers are not going to be disastrous, these are all things that would bring us to more certainty that it's time to start pumping the markets, right? This actually does have a major impact. Not saying immediate. I'm not saying that means right this second Bitcoin is about to pump $5,000, but it is going to be something in the next couple of days and weeks that I still believe we're going to see. We finished with a green September, right? Nobody said we were going to do that. We did it. We broke the curse, if that's what you want to call it, the September curse. Even though we showed you on this channel historically, we've seen green Septembers before. Now people are talking about October. Well, of course, guess what else is in the articles and the headlines today, T-Shroom? World War III ending October. Again, does it get a click? Does it get a view? Does it cause you to read what they're putting down? Sure, it does. I don't think that's the case. I still think we're having October leading right there into elections. We'll have an Upvember, an Upsember. We'll see if maybe there's a small correction in January during alt season starting for Bitcoin. That could absolutely happen. But as a whole, guys, the future looks extremely bullish. And the more certainties we get, certainties about the presidential election, certainties about rate cuts, certainties about what the economic numbers look like, these are all going to be things that cause a current crypto market that's been stale and sideways to finally get that second leg of the bull run, just like it does historically. To get it going, I believe all of that is coming to a head. I'm just looking at maybe a pullback down towards 60,000 on Bitcoin before all of that rally starts to happen.
Yep, absolutely. We're digesting it all here. The Fed rate cuts I showed here. The rate, not the rate tool, but this is essentially the betting markets are saying 25 basis points here, Tim. So that's over 62% likelihood of a 25 basis point increase. Next up is that 50 basis point decrease. So that's essentially what I wouldn't say the markets are pricing in, but that's what the betting markets are gambling in, you could say. So they've been pretty reliable. Although the last one, man, it was a whipsaw leading into the decision. That was crazy. But let us know in the chat. Do you remember that when it was going from 25 to 50, 50 to 25? Oh man, that was crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts there.
But yeah, we got 677 watching, and 200 likes. So let's keep the like button being smashed. Thank you, bros, for tuning in and jumping in. Before we go any further, we wanted to take a moment just to celebrate the community. We had an awesome landmark this week, and that was the following here. This was this tweet that we were very, very proud to bring you all. It says, "Don't do it alone. Join a community of investors and traders that care about a digital asset as much as you do." Image credits to Hasmania. So Hasmania made this happen. Yeah. This is Hasmania's Cybertruck, and we made a little video promoting this, and it has gone wild. I'm not going to play the music, but it's that song. Yeah, not going to play more than a second of it for copyright purposes. But look at that. That's a beauty. Tim, would you drive that Cybertruck?
I would love to drive that Cybertruck. I mean, I don't know if I'm going out and buying a Cybertruck, but I see them all the time here in Georgia. Is it my vehicle? No, but you cannot argue the fact that it turns heads. And I've seen inside it, and I've heard details about it. It's a very fascinating vehicle. And to see it with the Investing Bro stickers on it, Hasmania, he's such a great guy. He reached out to us asking for permission. It's like, well, technically speaking, you wouldn't really need our permission, I don't think, to do that. But it's really cool that he even wanted to do that to brand his Tesla Cybertruck with the bros. Hey, where is he located? You know where this vehicle is?
I don't even know that he's in the United States. So I'm sorry, I don't know that. But wherever he is, anybody walking by will be able to scan that QR code that's on there.
Yeah.
It's the same QR code that is right here. You can scan that. It's also at the outro of our videos. Now, why would you scan that? You would scan it if you want to join one of the fastest growing trading and investing communities that exists. Look, a lot of folks are losing their jobs right now. This is a viable alternative. Trading, day trading, investing. Is it for everybody? Absolutely not, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have some time in between employments, or you're just looking for a side hustle, trading and certainly invest. You should be investing regardless, but learning how to trade, you should give a crack at it. And some people really surprise themselves with the skills that come out after learning the discipline of trading. And Tim, you've helped a lot of people. We've both helped a lot of people learn how to trade and learn how to invest. We have essentially Q&As and trading lessons almost every single day here in the Investing Bros Discord. We show you all live on YouTube the different levels of the day and some technical analysis on the charts for Bitcoin. But a lot of people have been enjoying it. And if you're listening to the sound of my voice, it sounds at all appealing to you, you can jump on into the description of this video and check it out for free. That's right. You can check out the Discord for free with this link right here. And if you're ready to take that next step, you can scan the QR code at the end of this video or right here, or you can click on this link right here for the Bro Lux memberships. And you're going to want to do that fast because the prices are actually going up probably by midnight tonight. So very, very exciting time.
I think the prices are up now.
Did they go up? Oh,
yeah, well, October 1st. It's October 1st.
That's right. I think they did go up today. So
prices did increase. But.
Exciting times. Well, Tim, looks like we got a little bit of extra time here. We've got our factoid of the day we'll get to here. But exciting times.
Yeah, a username says, Tim taught me how to cheat at fantasy football and injure an entire team. Username, unfortunately, I did nothing to your team. Pick players that don't get hurt so much. That's what I would tell you. Dang. Also, a loss is a loss. Just accept it, move on. Listen, I'm a Virginia Tech fan. I get used to losing all the time, right? You can get used to losing as well. I'll take that one. Someone asked earlier, I haven't seen the chat in a while, but they asked multiple times, and I don't remember who asked, but I remember seeing it thinking it was a good question. The question was pretty much their weekly chart had a what we call three white soldiers formation with the candlesticks. We never talk about this formation. But ultimately, if you go to my chart here, you're going to see three white candles in a row and then a blue candle. The question pretty much is, hey, is this now debunked from this recent news? Should we cancel it? Let's start off by saying, unfortunately, while you're very, very close, and again, I don't remember who posted this. If you remind me, let me know. You're very, very close to being onto something, but it's not really there. What he's talking about is these three white candles right here. There's a formation called Rydell Sosa. There you go. Yeah. This is not quite a three white soldiers. And I'm not saying that the candles need to be identical sizes, but they need to be pretty darn close. And so while I would say these two right here would make it the first two of a three white soldiers pattern, Look at the size of the third one. It was not as big. This would not necessarily be the cleanest looking formation for three white soldiers. The other thing I will say about candle body patterns, I love identifying what candles mean, right? I love looking at candles like this that we would call like a doji candle. And we look at the small candle body with a decent sized wick above, but a massive wick below. And you're going to use what candles look like to tell you about how markets move are very, very important. That being said, at least when it comes to crypto, there could be a lot more consistency in the stock market space. There's a lot more traders. I have not found candle formation trading to be the best way to trade crypto prices. The number one way to trade crypto prices is simply looking for like horizontal levels of support resistance, things like order blocks, breaker blocks. Then you move on to some, we're looking at the oscillators and the strength of movements. You take a look at moving averages and moving levels of support and resistance. But candle body formations as a whole, I'm not saying they will never come to fruition and play out, but I will say it's trickier. So even though this isn't technically, I wouldn't count this one anyway. Even if it was, I wouldn't put my trading trust in that formation. I would want to see confluence of other indicators calling for a higher move to happen. Hopefully that helps you out there, Rydell Sosa. But thank you for bringing that to attention. Great learning moments. We got a super chat here from Eye of the Beholder saying, buy the freaking dip and chill, folks. Smash the likes, become a member. Thank you so much, Eye of the Beholder. He's been around for a very long time. I don't know if you were definitely close to day one. If you weren't a day one member, you were like day two. You might have been day zero. I think I've seen you around for a very long time. Thank you for being in here and giving that super chat. T-Shroom, let's get into our Factoid of the day, and then we'll come back and wrap out the show with a couple more Q&As. I will be going live with our VIP trading group right after this. We'll go into a Zoom call. We had some live trading earlier today where we pretty much said, hey, guys, not a great day to trade because it is chaotic. Sure enough, almost every trade we set up, we were looking for some sort of bounce before the short. It just went ahead and shorted on us. I don't know if a single trade got entered. We'll break that down in our VIP trading Q&A. If you have questions just about technical analysis or investing in general, there's also beautiful times for people to get in and get some hands-on and more, not one-on-one because there's usually a lot of us, but more intimate setting to ask your specific questions. If that's what you want, join our VIP trading group today. You'll check out the membership options down below to see which one it is. T-Shirt, what is our factoid of the day today?
All right, our factoid of the day. Tim, how old is former U.S. President Jimmy Carter today? Is he 89, 91, 96, or Tim, is he 100?
That's a good question. He's old. He's definitely old. I want to say C96. I feel like 100 would be a bigger deal. Is today his birthday?
Yes.
All right, we're going to go D. If today is his birthday, then I'm going to go 100.
Why?
Because he's really old, but I couldn't remember. I've never seen anything say he was 100 years old. I feel like that would be something that they would say, like, we have a president who's 100 years old. It's a big thing to go to 100 years old. That's not a small feat. That not a lot of people do it. But I could see if today is his birthday, he's it's the big 3-digit age for him. Happy birthday, former President Jimmy Carter. Whether you agree with his politics or not, he was a president. He's 100 years old. You got to applaud that if I'm right. Let's go with D, 100.
But Tim, Tony Rosas is saying C, just for a note. Does that change your mind at all?
Well, I don't use community for my voting whatsoever anymore. Yeah. Also, are you saying that you're trying to? Am I right? You're trying to get me away from the right answer? Is this like a misleading?
I wouldn't dare. Here we go, right, Tim.
I'm locking in D. There we go.
There you go.
There we go.
Tim, Jimmy Carter, former president, celebrates his 100th birthday. He's the longest living former U.S. president, according to Al Jazeera, and I believe him. Quite an interesting.
No offense to him. He does not look a single day under 100.
Yeah. Well, Tim, believe it or not, Jimmy Carter actually had the pleasure of meeting one of the bros. On screen. There he is, right there.
Wow.
Getting to rub shoulders with his favorite investing bro, T. Shroom. So, of course, I jest.
Now, is that Mama Shrum on the other side?
It is.
Of the president? Wow.
It is.
Put a face to the name. You guys see her in chat all the time. That's Mama Shrum right there.
So that picture was taken inside of a church in Plains, Georgia, where Jimmy Carter, I probably doesn't do it anymore, but he would give sermons every Sunday, and anyone could go there and listen to his sermons. My mother and I took up that opportunity, and it was a really, really good time. And the spirit definitely moved. There were a bunch of elected officials, senators, and congressmen who had made the trek to. Apparently, that's very common. They come down from Washington and they go and listen to the gospel there in Plains, Georgia. So I don't know how long he did it. He seemed like pretty frail at the time. I think that was like 2000, maybe 2021 that I did that. Maybe a little earlier than 2019, maybe. But in any case, that's the only president I've met. But
well, I say you have one up on me. I've never met a president. So there you go. You know, top of your class in community college, and you met a president.
That's right.
What can't you do, T-shirt? That's my question.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I can't predict the future, but I'm working on it. I'm polishing my crystal ball every day.
All right, let's get into some Q&A here. We'll do like one or two before we wrap out the show. Let me scroll back and see a lot of answers. We get a lot of people giving their input on the Factoid of the day. So if you guys love the Factoid of the day, smash the like. If you hate the Factoid of the day, smash the like 3 times. That really tells us that you don't like it. Let's see. I'm not necessarily seeing a whole lot of questions. Anything you saw earlier in chat, T-Shroom, that would come back? Shroomy can't legally pilot a Boeing 747 yet? You mean the time of the picture? I'm pretty sure he could. Well, how old do you have to be to... What's that even mean? I don't even know. I don't think you're licensed to do so.
I think it's just a random thing that I can't do. But yeah.
Oh, that's right. I did say, what can't you do? You're right. Okay, I forgot my own question. T-Shroom, Green Thanos says, T-Shroom and Tim are the real GOATs, not Kobe or LeBron.
Dang.
Why is Michael not in there, Green Thanos? Thank you for the compliment. I really do enjoy that, but no disrespect to Kobe, R.I.P.
Kyle Fields has got a question.
Isn't the actual thing Michael and LeBron? All right, let's keep going. The real questions. What we got?
What was the first underground house in the USA? The Automatat. Yep, look it up.
Automatat.
First underground house. Very cool. Very cool. Interesting factoid. We get doubling up in our factoids today. H-bar, Ethereum. Someone pointed out we don't do a lot of Ethereum TA, and it's true. It's true. There
hasn't been a whole lot to do with it recently, honestly. People are so negative about Ethereum. The Ethereum chart, do you know what? Just because people say we never do it, we're going to do it today.
We're doing it live.
I want to warn you, it's not that interesting. Once you've done the Bitcoin TA, you don't need a lot more for Ethereum, other than the fact that it's not as bullish. We didn't set a higher high here. We didn't get back up here towards 2,800, which would have been a very good feat for Ethereum to do. We're not really going any lower. We've kind of now double bottomed here around 2,200. We've broken a trend of resistance. There's not a lot here to talk about that's really special. Are we about to sell off here a little bit further? I think so. Let's see. We definitely have bearish MACD. RSI just crossed below the 50. The the Luxago oscillator, not a sell signal because that money flow right in there is creepily positive, despite the fact that we are looking at a sell signal, a reversal back here, and a bearish momentum dot. But it's not really telling us that much information right there. To the downside, though, again, which is where I think we are looking. Oh, yeah, look at that. We're sitting right on top of the daily smart trail. Do we crash below? If so, I think we're right back here to 22.89. Maybe a triple bottom here at 22, almost even. That's really it for Ethereum. I wish I could make it sexier, more fun for you. If you want a disaster type scenario, what's our disaster type scenario? Let's call it 1950. 1950, we have a major bullish breaker block on the weekly chart. I don't think that's going to happen. If you start to look at a lot of different things, Ethereum, people have been talking about Ethereum's down against this and down against that, and it's not doing well. Well, unless you think for some reason Ethereum is just done and gone, which I don't think there's a lot of evidence for that, it's just a lull or a boring season, Ethereum more than likely is about to set a nice little roar, especially if history repeats itself. If Bitcoin starts to climb, it's not long before Ethereum starts to go explosively as well, giving us a good idea of when true alt season will come right after that massive Ethereum pump. Stay close. Watch the channel daily so you don't miss out on that information coming. And that's going to kind of wrap up today's show here, guys. We're going to end here a little bit early as I jump into our Q&A with our trading VIP trading group. But make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Guys, I think there's a lot of people watching right now. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming in every day. But if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? You don't want to miss a single piece of content we put out. It also helps the channel grow. It tells YouTube that you really, really like what we're putting out, and it spreads the word to hundreds and thousands of other people. Always come in and smash like, hit subscribe. And if you want to go deeper with your trading and your investing education, you want to get more hands-on time with the bros, make sure you check out our membership options as T-Shrimp posted them down below. With that said, we do love you guys. See the VIP traders here in just a couple of minutes. The rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow. Adios.